Hi, I'm Renee Smith.
And I'm Tammy Fellers, and we're math consultants at ESSDACK in Hutchinson, Kansas.
Today we're here to talk about three new decks of cards that we've prepared for you, and they are all around the concept of place value, and they begin at the very primary level and work all the way up through the elementary grades.
In our primary deck, and you'll see one on the screen here, we really start out with those basic. All the questions on the primary deck is what number is represented, and we use base 10 blocks, and students are then allowed to count and calculate that number that is represented. And we start out with very basic numbers, those numbers lower than 100, so we're not using the flats yet, all the way up to, as the deck progresses,
up into the 900s, almost to 1,000. And so we kind of cover that whole range of three-digit numbers, and we do it in different ways. At the very beginning, the representations are very straightforward. Students could take out the manipulative and re-represent if they need to actually touch and move or to count. If the picture on the card, they aren't able to do it with the picture on the card. But then eventually we get into representations where there are more than 10 tens or more than 10 ones. And so they have to start to think about how they might construct the number based upon the fact that they've got too many for a certain place. So as you can see from the cards that we've shown you two different representations, and one of them was very straightforward, and one of them was one of the ones that, like I just talked about.
Right.
So do you have anything more about deck one?
No.
So on decks 2 and 3, they are set up a little bit differently. They are set up with 5 separate clues. So it's kind of a problem-solving deck, but it's still working on place value concepts. And so several of the things that occur in these two decks are a very intentional use of vocabulary that is relevant to and on grade level, and so we've kind of spaced those decks out. The deck 2 would go for probably grades 2, 3, and 4, and then deck 3 are we've targeted
4, 5, and 6
for the vocabulary. So you might encounter even and odd, consecutive, place, value, digit, all of those different place value words, but they also encompass concepts like rounding and greater and less and sum and difference, and so a lot of different vocabulary words that go into play on deck 2. So I'm going to give Tammy the 5 separate clues from one of the cards in deck 2 and have her try to determine which number we're talking about on this particular card.
And remember, with each deck, you'll get a task sheet that gives you ideas for student accountability, because many times we know you're using these cards in small group stations where you're not at, so how might you do that? And we're going to model here kind of one of our strategies where we're going to ask the student to make a guess after each. Even though there could be multiple guesses, there could be multiple answers, but we're going to ask the student to make a guess that meet all of those qualifications.
So my first clue to Tammy on this card is the number is between 500 and 800.
624.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you to write that down.
Okay.
And see if that number will work for the second clue.
Okay.
Okay, the second clue says this number is odd.
Ooh, that doesn't work for that.
Okay.
So how about we go 577.
Okay. Still stays between 500 and 800, so you're good.
Okay.
The next one says the digit in the ones and hundreds places are the same.
The digit in the ones and the hundreds place is the same, and I have to stay odd, so 575. I have to write them down or I don't remember them.
And the next clue is the value of the tens digit is 20.
The value of the tens digit is 20. So I could go like 727.
Okay. Could you have said 525 like that?
Yeah.
Okay, you could have, but okay.
Right.
Here's the last clue. This should help you out to determine whether or not you're right. The sum of the digits is 12.
Okay, so I did 727, let me say that correctly. So that's 14, that's 16, but
And it
I
has to
need
be
it to 12.
Which one do you know has to be right?
I know the 2 is right in the tens place because of that value piece. And if I'm going between 500 and 800, a 6 won't work in the ones place or the hundreds place because the ones place has to be odd.
That's correct.
And it has to be less than 800, so it can't be 8, so it has to be 5. So 525.
Okay, let's see if it works.
Okay.
You have 500, it's between 500 and 800.
Yes,
The number is odd.
yes.
The digit in the ones and hundreds places are the same.
The 5 and the 5, yes.
The value of the tens digit is 20,
Correct.
and the sum of the digits is 12.
5, 7, 12. 525.
And look there. This particular deck of place value cards, both decks 2, well, actually all 3 decks
Correct.
are self-checking, so the answers are supplied for you.
On the back of the card. So, deck 3 is the exact same type of setup, except for now we add in the layer of composite, prime, multiple factor. We just up the vocabulary, still keeping some of that same vocabulary that was in deck 2. And in some cases, we've kind of upped the level of difficulty of the problem-solving piece that's involved in that as well, so they get a little more complex for students as well. So that deck 2 can stretch really far in our grade spans, and deck 3 we've added in the layer of upper level vocabulary or a higher level of vocabulary and increase the level of difficulty within the problem solving.
Just as with every other deck that we've provided for you, the task card will also include extensions. They wouldn't have to experience the deck like we just modeled, Tammy and I just modeled, but there are many different ways you could use this particular deck. It can be used whole group or small group setting, and so we hope that you will try this out and enjoy it.
Thanks for joining us today.